Hello and welcome to the Movie Miners first podcast. We are a group of high school students who like to watch film, and we've decided to start a podcast where we'll be reviewing movies and sharing our opinions online. For this first episode, we randomly chose a movie, and the first movie we chose is called Another Round. Basically, the premise of this movie is that four teachers who are friends all decide to do basically what do you call it?
So like a psychological experiment?
Yeah,
psychological
experiment where they keep their blood alcohol percentage at a certain level, and it's a very unique storyline. And just to warn you, spoilers. So if you want to watch the rest of the interview without being spoiled, go watch the movie first.
That's important to know. A few things I think are important as well. It's a Danish movie, so obviously none of us speak any Danish, assuming we all watched it with subtitles on.
Yeah.
Obviously that adds, I think, a different experience for how we watch the movie. Because of the language barrier.
But I think that you're better off watching it with the subtitles.
Of course,
just because you get that authentic feeling that the actors intended when they first filmed it.
After a point you just sort of stop noticing. Like you can sort of learn to read the subtitles, but then also like take in what the actors are doing instead of reading and viewing at the same time.
It was interesting. I don't know. I have like mixed thoughts overall about the movie in general.
Well, why don't we start with the storyline? I think that was the most unique element of the movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess for those who haven't watched, Charlie explained it decently well. Pretty much the whole movie focuses on four high school teachers who are teaching at a school in Copenhagen, and all four teachers are kind of shown to have really unmotivating classes and be living boring lives as teachers. And then, of course, they have this dinner where they discuss this theory from this psychiatrist that states that humans are born with a blood alcohol deficiency of 0.05, and the idea is that if you're maintaining a blood alcohol level of 0.05 throughout the day, you're able to obviously be more motivated and unlock your biggest potential, right? So I guess the movie really follows them going through that journey, trying to monitor that, and then to an extent obviously failing that and going overboard by doing more than the 0.5 limit, which is when you start to see a lot of negative changes.
I think that's also where the movie really shines. I mean, at that point, like up to that point where they've not gone past that like alcohol limit, or like to the limit they said they were going to stick to, I feel like it wasn't a incredible. Like it was just your average movie, but I really saw a turning point in the, I don't know, direction, in the kind of way the story was going. And I think what really, I think I wouldn't say the climax, but one of the biggest points that hit me was when their life started to fall apart. And you really, I think because you felt kind of part of it, the story, because you've been with them up to this point, and it really is kind of like a drop of a coin. It's like, it's that change, and it really, I don't know, it felt quite real. And that falling apart of their lives also felt real, and I think quite emotional in some ways.
Yeah, definitely.
It was really...
the emotion, I think, was really felt. 100%. Mainly through... And I don't really know why necessarily, but I feel like a few reasons. Obviously, the acting was quite good.
That's phenomenal.
The acting was very good. I think
I think the way it was shot. I mean,
I was gonna say.
Yeah. Quickly to talk about the way it was shot. I thought so. Like, you know how it was kind of. It felt very close, and it felt quite fluid. So it moved with the characters, and I think that contributed to how the audience felt, because you felt almost there in the room with them. You felt right next to them, and that's partially why you felt that almost connection. You felt that those emotions.
Yeah, I know. There's like, I don't know much about cinematography, but there's that very like kind of handheld, homey feeling with the way everything was shot. Where I don't know if it was because it was low or you're very up close to all the characters, but everything was moving in such a real time, and everything was shot from the perspective as if you were really there.
Yeah.
And I think both those things in general. I mean, I don't want to drag away from the aspect of the cinematography, but the pace of the movie overall, I think, really added to that as well.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
it was
Did you like the pace?
I think.
I don't know if it's on whether or not you like it. It's just it definitely helps to tell the story because it feels kind of in between being like fast and slow at the exact same time. Yeah. Because you're watching one part of the movie and then you feel like it might be dragging on, but then you also feel like it's going too fast. Like for me personally, the part where they were talking about kept like doing, I think it was when they all had drinks together, where they were making the drinks and they were talking about the catharsis and overdoing the alcohol limit. Like I felt like they were moving too quickly, but it was still like the story itself was being slow.
But now I think of it, that could be intentional, because also something else I noticed is at the start of the movie, when they've not started this experiment, it feels very slow, feels very boring, feels very awkward. But then the second they start drinking, it's like almost instant. And I think that kind of talks to your point about how it really switches up. Like at some points it feels slow, at some points it feels fast. But I don't know, maybe intentional.
Yeah, I don't know. The pace, I found I think there's an often kind of stigma surrounding a slow-paced movie to be kind of negative. As boring. And I mean, while I can see that, I think for this movie, I wouldn't accredit any boredom to the pace, but more the plot. Yeah. Because the pace of the movie overall was quite slow, obviously up until it started building up more. Yeah. But I thought that the plot, well, it was still an interesting story, and the theory was really enticing to like learn about. The actual plot I found to be kind of predictable. So if you pair that with it being slow paced, it kind of makes the process of the movie.
Did you find the movie a bit too long as well?
I did.
I found it maybe 15 minutes.
2 hours. Yeah. I missed that though with a lot of an average movie's now like 3 hours.
Oh yeah.
And I don't I get it's fun to watch and it's all it's an artwork, but sometimes I find that's a barrier for people to go and enjoy a good movie because of how long it takes.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
If we keep talking about the pacing for a second, I thought that at the start it was actually kind of brilliant because obviously we are all high school students. I think that they actually managed to capture the tediousness of school really well at the start. Like it felt like it was taking hours. Especially Mads Mikkelsen when he was teaching his history class, could not get the attention. It felt so long, and I think was really good for that.
By the way, Mads Mikkelsen played the main character, called Martin. Just But yeah, I agree with that. That was particularly.
So, I'm also sick for the record, slightly.
Can we touch upon the music?
Did
you notice that?
I did. I really liked it. I think it's easy to always forget about music when you're watching a movie. Yeah. Even though it obviously influences the way you watch it, you forget that there's music added to create so much emotion. And I think I thought the music was almost minimalistic, but it added a lot.
It was. It was classical for the most part.
Yeah.
And then should we talk about the ending, or should we do? Well, basically, towards the end of the movie, they changed the music.
Yeah.
So for the whole, I'd say like hour and 50 minutes, all the music they play is classical. It's on a piano, and it really sets the mood. And then at the end, it completely switches to like
immediately.
I don't know,
So
what is it, like a
upbeat.
hop?
Yeah.
And it really, I don't know. I think that's part of why the emotions you feel so connected to the characters.
Yeah,
and like you said, I think it's more subtle, but definitely adds to it.
And more on that. I noticed. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the classical piece they were talking about the pianist who was always not drunk but not sober, and they played his piece.
Yeah.
I actually noticed that had the same like rhythm, and it was almost the same beat as the song they played at the end and at the start. What a Life, I think it's called. Yeah, I like it was the da 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 da.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to it and I was like, it's the same thing. So I thought that was a good choice.
Yeah. Well, I guess we kind of touched on it, but what did you guys think about the ending? Sorry. Let's go back a bit.
Yeah.
What do you think about the death?
What about the death?
The death. I feel for me the death hit me kind of hard. I don't know why, but I saw the death, and especially when Martin, his friend, came up, when he saw his friend came up and told him. Well, I assume it was that he told him his friend just killed himself. I was so sad. Like that kind of really broke me, and I feel like a lot of that was down to obviously the performance of Mads Mikkelsen, as he was so like almost, he wasn't hysterical, he wasn't even like sad, he was just sort of in disbelief.
Yeah. Did you guys expect it?
I did.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't really think much of anyone dying, but I guess I could have seen it. I think because it was so focused on Martin for the majority of the movie, it was kind of easier to forget about the other three teachers.
Yeah.
But when you see him going on the boat with the dog, and the dog, that's where I hate. That's the part I hate in movies where they have to throw in the dog or an animal. It was unnecessary because the dog was just sitting on the boat after like he killed himself.
That's how he's getting back home.
Yeah. Poor dog. But
Absolutely.
I don't know. That scene really hit me.
It did.
It really surprised me, and they did it, I think, really well because they didn't actually show him killing himself.
Yeah.
You know, they just presented the boat with him on and the dog, and then in the middle of the ocean without him. I don't know.
It was powerful.
Yeah, powerful, and I think really tastefully done. But yeah,
I feel like if they showed the suicide, it would have been less impactful.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's another thing about the movie. They don't really hold your hand.
Yeah,
like it's kind of up. It's kind of up for you to take the meaning, or like I don't know, because the whole movie didn't really feel like there even was much. I still now don't even know what the meaning was.
Yeah, that's actually I know we have a lot of things to talk about, but one thing, kind of talking about the ending here, I was intrigued to try and kind of figure out what the actual meaning of the whole movie was, and obviously there's a whole phenomenon about the theory of the blood alcohol 0.05% stuff. But when I searched up a few things about the movie, at the end, right, it says for Ida, which is the director's daughter, which I read more about. So I guess the director's daughter was 19, and about 4 days into the shooting, she was hit by a car, and it was kind of hard to find anything about how that correlated into the message of the movie. Obviously, it affected the director majorly, but there was a lot saying how the whole purpose and script was rewritten a lot throughout the movie for his daughter's death. So I don't know, perhaps if the boat had any significance to the death of his daughter, or a lot of Martin's expressions were reactions of digesting. Obviously, all his was to do with his family and the death of his friend and the struggles he had with depression.
Yeah.
But maybe that had some sort of a correlation with the director's obviously.
Perhaps it's kind of, now you say that, the ending kind of might make a bit more sense. Maybe it's just kind of trying to tell you that you're gonna go on with life and enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, that's true, because at the end, like, Martin is so happy and he starts dancing, even though he just heard his friend die.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of the end? We've touched on it a few times now, but
I kind of changed my mind about it actually, just talking about it now, because at first I didn't like it because I thought it would have been so much more powerful.
Very
because
predictable.
they went to
Continue.
Yeah, they went to the place after their friend died and they were asked for a drink, and then they actually had a drink. I thought it would have been so much more powerful if they refused it and got like water or something.
Yeah, that was interesting too.
I didn't like that they kept drinking and then their students graduated and gave them drinks. But now that I think about it, they kind of have just like decided to move on rather than let it weigh over them, and I've kind of changed my tune about it. So
I just felt like the whole ending was out of place. It really. Yeah. I mean, actually, up until when you talked about that daughter thing, I mean, it still feels a bit out of place. I don't know. I think it was partially the music, but it was just so random. I mean, the switch up.
It was. Yeah. I think
it almost goes into a music.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting. I think. Obviously, I already said earlier how I felt slightly the plot was predictable, and I still kind of think that was true. But that switch up after the death of his friend or the teacher, and then kind of the instant jumping ending into that musical kind of, it was quite confusing, and I really don't get the correlation between the whole story and then that ending at all.
Perhaps it is to do with that.
But I think it has to do with his daughter, but I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Interesting.
If we could touch on the genre slightly, I noticed it would have been so damn easy to make this movie a comedy.
Yeah.
It would have been such an easy decision to just make this 4 teachers goofing off, getting drunk, getting up to hijinks, getting caught, whatnot. But I think the decision to make it a drama made it a lot of a better movie. Like, maybe not as rewatchable as if it was a comedy.
Yeah.
And, going back at these actors' careers, none of them are really comedic actors, but they all have sort of touched on it a bit. But they don't utilize comedic skills. It's always dramatic skills. Even when they're doing funny parts, it's dramatized humor.
Yeah.
I think that adds to the plot.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I think that's why it's so unique. If it was a comedy, then I reckon it would be similar to
other movies that you've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like just imagining that whole movie play out as a comedy, I would have zero interest in watching it, really. Because it would be, it would be funny for a bit, but it would have no real impact apart from a laugh or two along the way, and that's kind of it.
Because it is kind of a trope that's been done before. Like, you got that Hangover series and a bunch of other movies, which is just people getting drunk.
Yeah.
So making it people getting drunk, but sort of a more tasteful spin on it.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
You guys got anything else? Any other to touch on?
Got a couple.
Okay.
Go on.
Alright, so the dance at the end.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised, I haven't looked it up, but I would not be surprised if Mads Mikkelsen did that on his own, because when they were talking about him being a trained dancer in the movie, Mads Mikkelsen himself, playing Martin, was actually trained in ballet. I found out, and so I thought it was really cool how they sort of just let him do his thing.
Like, you think he choreographed it all?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought that was a good creative decision from the director. And, like, it felt out of place, but I didn't dislike the dance. It was a good moment for him sort of letting go, I feel.
Yeah.
Of his friend, his troubles with his wife. Him just forgetting about it all for a couple moments and having fun.
I think that's that just reminded me of the wife. The bit at the end with the texting scene. So like throughout the movie how they had all of the like little dark screens with
I like that.
text.
I like that.
It was interesting.
I enjoyed the breathalyzer. Watching, because I think it kind of cut up the movie into sections quite a bit.
Yeah.
The first part.
Like what do you call it? Signposted. What it was, and it basically divided it into acts because it went into part one.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
It was a little
Part two,
hard to follow that, but with the typing of them writing up the report, those sections too in between.
Yeah, I thought it was really smart.
Yeah. But anyways, what were you saying about that?
Sorry. No, it was basically. It was about that. So I found that very interesting.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing I thought was a bit out of place was the little compilation of like world leaders drunk.
I
don't know. That caught me off guard.
I didn't know I guess that always either like a play on the whole theory of the blood alcohol being like with the 005.
Do you think it's necessary?
I didn't see how it related.
Yeah.
It was a little bit
kind
funny
of because
but
it was
then-
kind of. Sorry, just to interrupt for a second. They were just talking about in the classroom. What was it? Roosevelt and Churchill,
yeah.
how they always drank, and how Hitler didn't, and so I think it's sort of related back to that. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That was actually interesting. The how much he promoted all those things about like Roosevelt, of course, and all he promoted so much about drinking when he started doing it.
Yeah.
And I think his students really, I don't know, they really got into it as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it could, because I think it's a bit of a taboo, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, drinking alcohol, and especially alcoholism, and obviously it's a bad thing, but I think that the movie kind of accepts it for what it is, and tries to, I don't know, just like show kind of a reality that's not been shown before.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's no point where it's like glorifying alcoholism per se, but there's no point where it's really like hating against it. It's sort of just portraying.
Yeah, portray it objectively. That's a good point.
That's sort of how we said there's not really a visible message. I think it's just telling a story without any ulterior motive, which I can respect it for.
Yeah. Well, I guess at that point it's just kind of up to you to decide.
Yeah.
What it really is. Yeah.
What you want the message to be.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know more about what the significance of his daughter's death had to the message.
Yeah, like what was the script before his daughter died?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, have you any more points, or should we?
Get to the ratings.
Yeah.
Oh, one more point.
Okay,
Really quickly. Which was throughout the movie, I noticed that they were doing it all for a psychological study, but I was never under any impression that it was for a psychological study. Like, it always felt like them drinking alcohol was just to deal with problems in their own life, because they're all dealing with problems. Like the coach was never really confident in himself and was always going to become a drunk. The guy, Mads Mikkelsen Martin, with his family was always disconnected. The other, I forgot his name.
Nikolai or Peter? Nikolai.
Yeah, where he's arguing with his children and his wife, and he was sleeping on the couch.
Yeah.
And then Peter, who's just sort of, I feel like he's kind of an extra. Honestly, I feel like he's an extra, but they all have problems.
He couldn't find a wife. He wanted kids.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of.
Yeah.
His story felt the least developed.
Yeah, but then in the same way, I kind of like he felt. Him and Nicola and Martin felt most connected to the students. For me.
Yeah.
And I really like the relationship between the students.
Yeah.
But it always feels like this study is just an excuse
to do it. I
can
can see that. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's Martin, who was the psychologist.
The historian.
Historian. Who taught? Yeah.
Psychologist Nikolai.
Oh yeah, Nikolai. Because obviously they all wrote it, but I get what you're saying, Hamish. Literally, like any cut to them writing about it, it just felt like it was an excuse to do the drinking in a sense. And obviously, it's not like they were living a good life beforehand. That like Martin was depressed beyond possibility. Everybody was just so down.
Yeah.
Nothing was really good until. I mean, I don't know. I guess. They just gave like a why not mindset and decided to write about it. It was actually interesting though when they wrote, I can't remember word for word, but at the end, like one of the final black typing scenes was like the study will not continue to be that. That was I like that a lot. That
was good.
Yeah, it was well put together.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Should we go? So, are we doing the ratings out of 10?
I was out of 5.
Out of 5 stars.
I was thinking out of 5. But I can do 10. I don't mind other way.
Should we do?
Also, are we rating categories or the movie as a whole?
I reckon movie as a whole.
Yeah.
And then, should we do out of 10 because it gives us more because we can 10 point.
We're doing 0.5s?
Yeah.
Can I do like 0.1s and 2s?
Oh, okay.
Okay. I guess Zama. Or what was,
Okay. Well, I used Letterboxd to do my rating, so I originally rated it 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
But if I had to put it in a 10-point scale, I'd probably give it like a 6.3, 6.4.
Okay.
And I know that sounds like a very low score, but it actually isn't. I think there's a common... Well, I don't know. I feel like scores can be subjective.
Okay, well, explain your
So
score.
for
Why
me-
do you give us why it did get that far, but not further? Like, it's a bit of
I think the things that bumped it up so high, obviously, were the cinematography, how real it felt through that, and also the color grading.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we didn't really touch on that, but the color grading really added a lot, like kind of the bluey green hue. I don't really know how to describe it, but
It always like felt cold.
it felt cold. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But for those reasons, I guess the main reasons that I gave it like a 3 out of 5 or that like 6.3 is mainly attributed, 1, to the acting. I think the acting was phenomenal. 2, obviously cinematography, like I said, all things like that. The reason it didn't get a higher score, I think, was because 1, I couldn't connect to it that greatly, and I couldn't really understand the message. And I tried to understand the message more behind it, and maybe there's just not a message. But for me personally, the more I can understand the meaning behind something, the more impactful it can be on me.
Okay.
You know?
I got it. Yeah.
So.
Okay. So I give it a 7.1.
Okay.
Now, I think mostly this rating for me comes from how original the piece was, and I think I love movies that are just, I've never seen anything like it before, and I can't think of anything like, not even just movies, anything I've ever watched that's come close to this in terms of like what it's like. I don't know, it's just such an unusual concept, and I really like that about it. And like you said, the acting is great filming. It really felt personal and part of it, good emotions. But for me, the biggest cons would be, it's not my like favorite type of movie. I do like drama, but I felt it needed a bit more tenseness.
Okay.
It didn't feel. I wanted to be a bit more on the edge of my seat, and the ending I just still feel is a bit out of place.
Yeah.
And the message was so I like a message when it's unclear, but not to the point where I don't even know the realm. Like I don't even know if there is a message, like you said.
I think I get what you mean. Yeah, maybe that's why I didn't rate it so highly. I think it was just all understanding. Maybe I should clarify something. I don't want to fully understand the movie straight away.
Yeah.
Because I guess that kind of makes it more predictable and boring. But like you said, having kind of an unclear message that you can try and figure out versus having an unclear message with no direction or no real meaning creates a big difference between the enjoyment of the
because
movie.
then there's no like. I love a movie that sits with you.
Yes.
And it did sit with me, but not to the extent that other movies have. And that's why I think it's because it didn't have that even vague direction of the message.
Definitely.
Yeah.
My rating was same as yours, 7.1.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I thought the movie was well done, but the thing that sort of bumped it down a bit for me is if someone asked me in a word to just describe the movie or how I felt the movie, I should describe it, I would say interesting. But it's not, because I just feel the movie's worth a watch for the sake of watching it. You know, you got to understand what happens, but it's not something that I would watch like to critique as an amazing, masterful film. It's really well done and really well put together, and the acting I felt was really good, especially from Mads Mikkelsen and I can't remember the coach's name, the actor's name anyway, but it was
the coach.
Yeah, I think it was Peter. Right?
I think who was it? Tommy.
Yeah. Tommy. I cannot remember the actor's name, and I hate that, but he did such a good job.
What's his name?
Here, look at the
Thomas Bo Larson.
Yeah.
Thomas Bo Larson.
Really? I didn't think he was that kind of an actor. I thought he was the weakest.
No, I thought his performance was actually really subtle.
Really?
Because when he like came in, especially when what was it, when Martin took him to his house and then he was saying goodbye to Martin, and then he just closed the door. The look on his face before that, like from that moment on, I knew he was either going to kill himself or overdose or something really bad. And I felt like he did such a good job of portraying throughout the movie, and his performance wasn't like over the top. It didn't hit as hard as Mads Mikkelsen's did, but I feel like he was still really fantastic with it. So it was still good, but like you said, the meaning's hard to discern. They don't give you any direction, and it's not a movie I would watch and call a good movie. It's more just interesting.
Would you say it's a must watch? Would any of you say it's a must watch?
No, I wouldn't.
No, I would not rate it that highly. It's definitely something you should watch, but not something you must watch.
Yeah. I would recommend to check it out. I think I enjoyed it, but I think the biggest thing was that disconnect of having an idea of any message at all.
Yeah.
I think also it might connect with anyone older. Like
That's true.
So maybe if maybe it would resonate with someone more in their like 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on, who are experiencing that sort of part of life or have experienced. So maybe it's just a difference of perspective from us. But yeah, pretty good overall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of our first podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Make sure to tune in next week for our next one.
Yeah.
And subscribe.
Yeah.
We hope
also
you
check out the linktr.
Make sure in the description there's a link tree, and you can find any of our Letterboxd reviews and accounts. For those of you that don't know much about Letterboxd, it's basically kind of a social media platform, but mainly kind of an app, an all-in-one app for anyone who loves film. You can track your films, write reviews, rate them, which is what we do.
There's great lists on there for like types of films.
Yeah. And so make sure to check the link tree out and click any of our profiles, and you can read more about Letterboxd in the app. And we even have a list of all the movies that we've either reviewed or planning to review in the future. So you guys can see if anything you're interested in we'll talk about. As well, make sure to leave any comments or suggestions you have of things you either want to hear us talk about or suggestions you have of movies you think we'd like.
We teasing the next episode.
Where's the next episode? Yeah, go on.
Next week, guys, tune in. We will be watching and reviewing No Country for Old Men by the Coen brothers, Joel and Ethan. So yeah, check it out.
So,
this was suggested by Hamish.
Yeah, by the way, this suggestion this week was mine.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a little rotation. In fact, so me, Hamish, Zama, and then me in the future probably some recommendations and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you
guys.